Unit 6, Part 6 notes, I can factor trinomials into two binomials. Part 3, so we're extending on Part 5 notes, so like our last section where we did Part 2 of factoring. So this is the final iteration of this set of notes. All right, so factoring trinomials. We are going to do all of the same steps we did last lesson, except for we're going to just have one new first step. The first step is going to be we have to factor out the greatest common factor. So when we look at a trinomial, we have 9x squared plus 66x plus 21. In this case, there is a number that goes into each of those values evenly. It has a greatest common factor. And its greatest common factor is 3. 3 goes into all of those numbers evenly and can be factored out before we factor the trinomial. And we want to factor it out first because it does make our factoring process easier, because then we can still follow the same steps that we were using before. Otherwise, we have to use kind of a guess and check method, which just makes it a little more difficult. So we're going to take a 3 out. So then what's left in the parentheses is all of these values divided by 3. So we're going to do 9 divided by 3, which is 3. Keep the x squared with it. 66 divided by 3 is 22. Keep the x with it. And then 21 divided by 3 is 7. So now that we have factored out our greatest common factor, we've taken that 3 out. This 3 is going to be in front of our two factors that are going to remain. We are going to factor the trinomial 3x squared plus 22x plus 7 in the same way that we did it last lesson. So you're well versed and practiced on this right now. So we're going to go through this. We put our trinomial in our box. We identify our A, our B, and our C. And again, this is identifying it from this trinomial, not our original trinomial, the one where we factored out the 3. And now we're going to find that product of A and C. So we're going to do A 3 times C 7. So 3 times 7 is 21. And then we're going to find factors of 21, which 21 only has 2 pairs of factors, 1 and 21 and 3 and 7. So the one that adds to B, the one that adds up to 22, would be 1 and 21. So we're going to go put those over here. 1x and 21x makes that 22x. And now we're going to go back and do more of that greatest common factoring. 3x squared plus 21x. What is the greatest common factor of those? And that would be 3. 3x. We can pull out a 3x, leaving us with 1x to make 3x squared and 7 to make that 21x. And then we'll also do that for the bottom, 1x and 7. Their greatest common factor is just 1. It's the only number that they share. 1 times 1x gives us 1x, and 1 times 7 gives us that 7 value. So we have 3x plus 1 is one of our factors, and 1x plus 7 is the other factor. So this right here would be our original trinomial in that factored form. All right, let's do another problem together. We have 3x squared minus 18x plus 24. So again, reminder, our first step is to factor out the greatest common factor, which is 3. 3 can go into all of those values evenly. So when we do 3 divided by 3, we're left with just x squared. 3 divided by negative 18 is going to be negative 6x. And then 3 times 24 is going to be 8. So our number we pulled out is 3, so that goes in front of our factors that we still need to determine. And then we are going to factor x squared minus 6x plus 8. So if we identify our A, our B, and our C, our A is 1, our B is negative 6, and our C is 8. So now, if we remember when that a value was 1, we just needed to find the value that multiplies to make 8 and adds to make -6. We won't even need to use our full box because it's just going to be those numbers because this a value is 1. So we are going to list our factors of 8, which is 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. But because our b is negative, we need those values to be negative. And which pair makes -6? That's going to be -2 and -4. Because -2 and -4 multiply to make +8. But they would add to make this -6. So our factors are x minus 2 and x minus 4. So that is how you factor that trinomial. All right, we'll try another one. Factor 16x squared plus 60x minus 100. So again, we're going to start by factoring out the greatest common factor of 16, 60, and 100. So their greatest common factor is going to be 4. 4 times 4x squared would give us that 16x squared. 4 times 15 would give us that 60x value. And then 4 times -25 would give us that 100. And reminder, you can also use the division operations. You could do 100 divided by 4 to get that 25 value. Whichever way makes more sense in your brain. So now we know what we factored out is a 4. And we have our trinomial that we are going to factor. 4x squared plus 15x minus 25. And we can put that in our factor box. So we have our a values are 4, 15, and -25. So now we're going to multiply a and c and get -100. So we need numbers that multiply to -100 but add to +15. So what that means is one number is going to be positive, one number is going to be negative. And since it needs to add to a positive number, our positive value is going to be the bigger value. We want that positive number to be bigger. So we could have 1 and 100, but that's not going to make 15. 2 and 50, that does not make 15. 4, -4 and 25, that also does not make 15. -5 and 20 would be a factor pair, and that together does make +15. -5 and +20. So we can put those into our factor box right there. And now we just have to finish factoring this by finding those greatest common factors. So the greatest common factor of 4x squared and 20x would be 4x, leaving us with 1x and 5. And then the greatest common factor of -5x and -25 would be that -5. We do want to pull out the negative because we need a negative times a positive to make this -25 here. So always really be paying attention to those positive negatives as we work on factoring. So 4x minus 5 and 1x plus 5 would be the factors in parentheses there. All right, last problem. I know this video is a little bit longer, but just bear with me just a little bit longer here. 15 15x squared minus 27x minus 6. We are going to factor out that greatest common factor, which would be 3. 3 is the value that goes into all of those evenly. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 27 divided by 3 is 9. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. So now what I would like you to do is I would like you to pause this video, and I would like you to complete the factoring here. I'd like you to fill in that box, show that you remember how to do that, give yourself that opportunity to practice it, and then once you resume the video, you can check your work and make sure you're good. All right, here you can see the final worked out solution, and this would be your final answer here. If you have any questions, you can always feel free to send me an email or join my office hours or get help in person. Now that you have completed your notes, you can complete the online practice on Schoology. There's an IXL. Try to complete 10 problems. If it glitches out and only lets you complete a certain amount, just screenshot that and submit that. No worries, you'll still get full credit. But please make sure you do the practice problems so that you can do well on the quiz that follows this assignment.